now $16,000 per 40-hour work week, up 158% from 2016, marking the highest minimum wage in the nation's history. We are building Jamaica.
The time by the office of the Prime Minister is
5:30 p.m. and it's family time.
Good evening. Good evening and welcome to everyone on Love 101 FM, Facebook and YouTube Live. This is Family Time, and Family Time is about your issues and your relationships. It is about your at-home family, your community family, and your global family. Family Time is produced by Family Life Ministries, and our aim is to enable healthy families, which will lead to healthy nations. So stay with us and please connect with us via all our platforms. You can find us on Facebook at FLM-Family Life Ministries. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Family Life Ministries-FLMJA. And on Instagram, you can keep up with what's happening, and that is simply FLMJA on Instagram. Now, while Family Time is a family program, we like to caution that on the odd occasion, it may touch on what some people may consider mature subject matters. So we're asking you to use your discretion and to be there for young children who may be listening or who may be in the room with you. My name is Roland Gale. And now today we know that divorce is not usually a welcome event in any parent's life. Remarriage, although it could be a happy occasion, may come with its own challenges and even drama if one is not properly prepared for it. So what is in store for a parent who decides to get married again? We're going to focus on the parent this time as we try to help them navigate with them the ins and outs of being a parent and finding love again. Join us as we look at the topic today: when divorced parents remarry. We also want to answer your questions on this topic, but we have a question for you as well. When is it best for divorced parents to remarry? When is it best for divorced parents to remarry? Send your answers via WhatsApp text and WhatsApp voice notes to 997-3125. And if you're going to send a voice note, please keep it to under 30 seconds. And you can also call our studio lines. Those numbers are 968-8327 and 968-8328. You can also watch us and comment live on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. Get your questions ready because we have our special guest with us, Sonia Winter and Reverend Trevor Edwards. We're going to go for a break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I'm sure you've heard it before. These young people are so entitled. But entitlement isn't just a youth problem. It can affect any of us who think we automatically deserve privilege or recognition. So, what does scripture say about entitlement on earth and in heaven? On this episode of The Rock, join guests Requen Allen and Jonathan Bagan for a bold conversation on the topic, the problem with being entitled. That's The Rock, Tuesday, July 22 at 10 a.m. here on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to Family Time on Love 101 FM, and welcome to our very special guests. Today we have two guests with us, Sonia Winter and psychologist and founder of Tea House Therapy. And we have with us as well a first-time visitor.
Break.
Hello, I'm here. I hope you can hear me now. I think my internet was giving a bit of trouble, but I am back with you. Hope it won't do that again. And so, welcome to you both. Reverend Trevor Edwards, welcome, sir. I know you are a
Welcome.
first time.
Thank you very much, Roland.
It's good to have you on, sir. And Lady Sonia, good to see you again.
Greetings. Hi, Roland. Hi, Reverend.
Hello, hello. I want to remind our viewers and our listeners that we have a question for them. And the question is this: when is it best for divorced parents to remarry? You can send your text or voice notes to 9973125. And if you're sending a voice note, please keep it shorter than 30 seconds. And we are going to do our best to address those questions or your responses to our question as they come in. And we're going to get going now. When divorced parents remarry, that's our topic today. And we know that divorce can be deeply traumatic for different individuals. It involves a range of emotional, mental, and in some cases, even physical challenges. It's not just the loss of a relationship, but also the disruption of routines, in some cases, identity and a sense of security. And the truth is, if you're a parent, well, that's an added dimension. But as we focus on the parents today, we're going to examine these different things. And I want to pose this question to Reverend Trevor first. How was it for you, sir? How was it for you, sir, when you had to consider your own well-being during a divorce? So how difficult or how easy was it to do that? To consider your own well-being?
Thank you, Roland. Let me just give a little background in terms of introduction to indicate that I am founder director of Fresh Start, a divorce recovery group from Family Life, associated with Family Life Ministries. And we started this group 25 years ago. And as I say, have been directing that group. In terms of response directly to the question, how was it for me in terms of addressing the issue of divorce? Sorry,
Of your well-being, your
my
emotional, your
well-being.
physical well-being? Yes.
Right. I think for the most part, it was a traumatic experience. It was a shocking experience. Nothing prepared me for this, and there was no preparation for the experience. It's quite some time now. It's over 30 years ago. But there's nothing that prepared me for the experience because I thought we had a good marriage, which was going for about 13 years up to that time, and thought that everything was okay. It's like walking with someone, and then all of a sudden you realize the person disappeared and something just cascade on you, and you wonder, why is this happening? So that was part of the experience for me. Uh, but for the most part, I had many questions, and it was processing those questions that helped me on the journey of understanding my own mental health, spiritual health, and physical health in the process.
I get you, sir. I get you. Sonia,
Mm.
how important is this thing of well-being when someone is experiencing or going through a divorce? As Sir Trevor said, it hit him like a ton of bricks. Those are my words, but I think that's what he may
Mm.
have meant, that it was so unexpected and there's nothing that prepares you for it.
Mm-hmm.
How about our well-being when this occurs?
Yeah. Thanks, Roland. It's extremely important. Um, Remember that divorce is one of life's top five most stressful events in a human being's life. Okay, it's often compared with the death of a loved one. Okay, in terms of just how stressful and the kind of emotional upheaval that it can cause, you know. And so, as a result, particularly if there are children in the mix, quite often, you know, sometimes parents feel the need to be strong for the children and they can end up neglecting their own health as they go through it, you know, and then that ends up having a ripple effect, you know, because you can't be very good for your children if you're not good for yourself. So, you know, taking care of your own well-being is not a selfish thing. It's very important to help you get through to the other side. You know, if you think of going through divorce as you're going through a dark tunnel, you know, you want to be able to get out the other side, in a way that you can thrive again. And you also want to be able to support the people that are depending on you, and you won't be able to do that unless you really take care of your own well-being, you know.
Well, as I think about this and I hear your responses to the both of you, the question comes to my mind: how do you actually manage? Sir Trevor, this thing hit you and it was at a point where you were totally unprepared. How would you advise someone who is perhaps on the verge of the same thing, or at a point where they are now not knowing what to do, where to go, how to, what would you advise them in terms of maintaining their well-being?
Any of us can answer. I just
Yes, sir. Yes, yes. Go right ahead, sir. I
okay,
was actually
okay,
asking you.
okay. It is. I would say prepare for the fact that you're experiencing a relational death. It's a death, and it's a loss. It's a major loss in your life. And when you experience loss, you have to realize that there are different emotions that you go through, and be prepared for these. So there's going to be the shock. There's going to be some anger. You're going to be angry with the person. You're going to be angry with persons. You perhaps may even be angry with God, because you're wondering, why would this, how could this happen to me? You perhaps may be angry with friends. Why didn't somebody tell me that this was happening? Because I'm sure this never just happened. You're going to be bitterly angry with the person. So be prepared for anger, and learn to manage that. Uh, a part of the process too is recognize that you may want to negotiate with the person, enter into a kind of bargaining position with the person to say, well, listen, if you come back, or if we are able to make this work, I will change and do what you want me to do, kind of thing. So there's going to be some kind of negotiation, some kind of bargaining. And it's a kind of a simplistic way to deal with what is a complex problem, a complex issue. It's not just bargaining that is going to make it right, but it is a way to ease the pain. Okay? Um, you have to say to the person, be prepared for a period when you are going to feel depressed. You're going to feel depressed, and some people describe that as internalized anger. You're going to feel a great level of depression because you it is a frustrated dream. It is a broken dream. It is where you see all your plans are shattered before your very eyes. Some people talk about the dreams you have become a nightmare. So it is where you're going through that kind of frightening, depressing experience. And there are some people who take a long time to recover from depression. There are some people who do all kind of ridiculous things to deal with the depression. There are some people who just eat themselves out of nothing. There are some people who refuse to connect with others socially. There are some people who isolate themselves. There are some people who get into illicit sexual relationships with others. So there are a lot of things that happen. But I think if someone knows that these things are happening, you're far more prepared to deal with them than if you don't know. So one of the things that would be useful to say, how do you say to someone to respond to your question, is to say, listen for these things. But when you go through that tunnel, when you go through the valley of the shadow of death, there is light on the other side. And this is where hope is. It takes some time. And so there is the reminder and the offer to say to the person that, look, you, there is a point at which you come to accept that this is happening. It takes a little
Absolutely.
while, but you come to the point where you accept that
Absolutely,
this is
sir.
happening.
Thank you for that. I love that answer. And there was so much said in those few minutes that you had shared with us. We're going to have to go for a break now, but I'm going to ask our viewers and our listeners to remember our feedback question. When is it best for divorced parents to remarry? We're going to look forward to what you have to say. And remember that you can connect with us on Facebook and on YouTube. And I'm going to ask you to stick around for more insightful comments and advice from our guests, Sonia Winter and Reverend Trevor Edwards. Soon come back.
The time that Grace could move is
546.
Hurricane season is here. Is your property underinsured? If your policy hasn't been updated in years, you are at risk. One hurricane and you could be paying millions out of pocket. Don't get caught off guard. Know your property's value. Talk to your insurance provider today. Check it, value it, insure it. Real value, real coverage. A message from the Insurance Association of Jamaica, protecting what matters most.
Get the skills and certification that equates to jobs and money worldwide. In 3 to 4 months at the Distinction College, start day, evening, and Saturday classes in pharmacy technician, bartending and mixology, project and HR management, cosmetology, airline ticketing, and sales. No subjects required, no age limits, no entrance tests. Register this week and win an additional course for free. Or visit us in Kingston, Spanish Town, and Ocho Rios, or call us at 876-356-4167. Distinction College, the school of champions.
We've seen a lot of our customers make some good moves over the years. Whether it's sharing a hug with a friend you haven't seen in a long time or sharing a meal, Grace has been there. So let's keep making these moments together, because rest assured, every time you choose Grace, you know you're making a good move. Always a good move when you're moving with Grace.
Welcome back, and we are talking about when divorced parents remarry. This is Family Time on Love 101 FM, and I'm going to ask our hosts, Reverend Trevor and Lady Sonia, to come back in. I'm going to ask them if they can to just continue along this line. But before we went for the break, Reverend Trevor had mentioned the fact that divorce is a death, it's a severe loss. And he spoke about the fact that it represents a broken dream and plans that are shattered, simply devastated. And Lady Sonia, he went on to speak about the fact that it is important for those going through it to understand what is happening. And sometimes individuals get to a point where they say, well, I never want to go through this love thing again. But then there are other times when they may say, oh yeah, I'm open for it. I'm willing to take that leap once again. What, Lady Sonia, is the healing process like? After listening to Reverend Trevor, we realize that there are wounds. There are a lot of things that actually need to be healed. What's that process like?
Mm-hmm. I think one of the things about that process that can make it so unwielding is that it's not linear, it doesn't go in a straight line in one direction at all times, There are bumps along the way. You even feel like you make several steps back sometimes, So you'll sometimes feel like you have moments of peace and everything makes sense. You have some clarity in what happened, and then something will trigger you and you feel like nothing makes sense anymore. You cannot fathom how you got here. You cannot fathom how things took a turn, you know, in the way that they are, and you go through all the
Sorry,
pain.
I have to interrupt you, Sonia. I hate to interrupt you, but as you were
Sure.
talking, I saw Reverend Trevor nodding, and he was nodding. And I want to ask him, Reverend Trevor, what came to your mind as she spoke a while ago?
I concur fully in that the process of grief is not linear at all. It is definitely uh, jagged, because there are times when you may feel that you are at peace and something happens. It relates to the ex, and you discover that there was an affair that may have been going on before, and that just comes to light. Or something happens and somebody tells you something or reveals something, and it takes you back to the anger. Or it gets to the stage where you have to deal with a divorce issue, and you're served a paper or something like that, and that sets you back. You know, like snake and ladder. You go up one step and then you go way back down to the tail of the snake. So it's that kind of roller coaster experience. So your well-being and your faith center, for those who have a faith center and you're able to work that through, can really help to provide some internal stability. And those who have a strong sense of differentiation in terms of how they see themselves, and in terms of how they understand themselves, and in terms of their own sense of awareness of who they are, that can help, because you are not seeing your life in relation to, in other words, as important as the spousal relationship is and the marriage, you have a life within that marriage, as well as the marriage itself is a life for you. So if you can understand that your life still function and exist even outside of that marriage, it helps you, because you realize you're a full person who has entered that relationship of marriage. But if the marriage is the only thing that makes you, you're in dire trouble.
You're in dire trouble. And I want to ask you, sir, right, I want to ask you from your own personal experience, did you encounter some of what you're talking about here, this business of the snake and ladders, where you climbed the ladder and then a snake just swallowed you and you ended up almost back at square one? Is there an instance that you can share with us, sir?
There are times when I went through that experience. I think one of those experience, I can't give detail of that, but it's a discovery. It's a discovery that here is a situation where you have the greatest of expectation, and you value this person, and you are living with a situation of trust, and you realize that that trust is undermined by a particular action or series of action, which makes you realize that what you believe was not so at all. That is undermining. It is also undermining of one's self-esteem. So it's a real challenge. And I had to struggle with that for a particular point. And also, when there was a point at bargaining where the suggestion was, if you do this, then things could improve. Doing that which was proposed would be like stepping back in my life, would be like denying myself for who I was. And I didn't see that as an option. That for me was non-negotiable. It was like denying myself as a person. And I think it was an kind of unreasonable even thought or suggestion. So it is one of those hitting experience where you're right back to square one. You're thrown way back. And I said, I couldn't feel like a person if I were to do that.
If you were to do that.
Relationship, it wasn't worth it.
Right. Sorry I cut you, Lady Sonia, but I want to ask you now, having heard what Reverend Trevor said and the trajectory of what you were saying before, is it possible for us to actually heal completely?
Wow. I think this is going to sound a little cliche, forgive me. I think it depends on what healing means. I think sometimes we expect that healing means you're going to forget all about it, and that's unlikely, you know. But if healing means that I can trust again, I can trust someone else, I can trust myself again to make healthy decisions about relationships. I can trust, I can search for connection with another person rather than just, comfort alone from the pain and the sadness and the sorrow that I've felt. If I can look to another relationship for that relationship's worth rather than looking to another relationship for it to make me feel better about myself or feel better about the past, then healing is definitely very possible. If you're making decisions that are about hope and optimism for a healthy new relationship rather than making a decision because I'm hurting. you know that's what that then healing is definitely an option. Healing is what is promised to you when you get out of the tunnel on the other side. um so it doesn't mean that these painful memories are gone forever, or it also doesn't mean that they don't still have an impact on you, because Reverend Edwards spoke a lot about discovering new information and having being set back. But sometimes it's remembering the old information that you had and you still experience that emotion. You know what I mean? And that can happen for quite some time, and you're still healed nonetheless. But you learn how to how to experience those emotions and still make healthy decisions for yourself, and for your family, for your relation, for your new relationship, and so on. So if healing is about making well-informed decisions about the present and the future, then yes, it is very much possible.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And I saw Reverend Trevor nodding again. I'm so glad that we have this kind of these visual cues to go off. We have a couple comments. I just want to bring them in right now. And the first one was from Donna from Papine. And Donna from Papine says, "Good evening, everyone. I think it's okay to remarry after divorce if you go through counseling and if you pray and ask God if you can remarry. Pray and fast and trust God that you never make the mistakes you made during the previous marriage, if any." Praying and fasting about remarriage. How does that sound to you both?
Certainly, those can help, and I think that they are useful part of the process. But you need to understand what you're praying about and how you're praying. The praying can't be scattershot. If you're praying about healing, you have to make sure you understand what you're healing from, because praying about healing, and as I just want to add to what Sonia was saying earlier, that um, it's dealing with pain, and you can have a situation where there's memory about the relationship with a lot of pain, and healing comes when there is memory with little pain, and healing is further experienced when there's memory with no pain, and healing is further experienced when there is no memory and no pain. There are people actually have that experience. You say, who is that again? I was married to that person. In other words, whatever created the hurt, there's real healing, that there's no more anger, there's no more discord, there's no more wishing him or her death. There's none of that, because that is so cleared from the system that there is no pain, or the pain is significantly lessened. So yes, prayer is important. So that's what you have to pray for. You also have to make sure you pray that whatever factors were in your life which contributed to the end of the relationship, that you deal with those. Whether this requires personal therapy or this requires group therapy through a group like Fresh Start, process what you're going through in a group setting, or it requires looking seriously at where your heart may have been hardened. What were the things that you heard your partner say which you ignored, or which you misinterpreted, or so on. You have to look at those. So prayer is very important and fasting, but it needs to be focused. You really,
Absolutely. We're
really
going to
need
go for a break.
to understand what you're praying for.
What you're praying about, not scattershot. Thank
Not
you so much.
scattershot.
We're going to go for a break. And when we come back, we're going to continue our discussion. You can respond to our question by sending messages to our WhatsApp line, 9973125. And we're going to see you right on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Itana, and human trafficking is everybody's business. Call 1-888-PROTECT to report suspected cases of child trafficking.
The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6 o'clock. Remix the summer with Digicel. 100 lucky winners win $100,000 each. Plus surprises all summer. To enter, buy a SIM 7-day plan or higher. Switch to Digicel. Be an active postpaid or Digicel Plus customer, or receive US $15 or more from abroad. Gift a friend a plan. They could win $25,000. Remix the summer with Digicel. Authorized under Section 58 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act. Promo ends September 15, 2025. Conditions apply. Visit DigicelJamaica.com for more info. Digicel, better connected this summer.
This Emancipation Day, experience a night of powerful praise and purpose. CC Winans brings her More Than This tour to Jamaica with Chevelle Franklin, Kevin Downswell, Prince Saj, John Mark Wigan, hosted by IT Ellis and Nadine Blair. Gates open 2 p.m., showtime 5 p.m. Tickets at select outlets island-wide or online at SpurOpen.com. Follow at More Than This Jamaica on Instagram for updates. CC Winans, More Than This concert with a cause. Friday, August 1, Kings House East Lawns.
Welcome back. Welcome back. It is now 2 minutes past 6 in the evening, and you're tuned to Love 101 FM. This is Family Time, brought to you by Family Life Ministries. And Family Life Ministries provides counseling for people with all kinds of challenges from all walks of life. And just so that you know, the numbers for the FLM head office in Kingston are 920-1034 or 926-8101. But before we continue our discussion on the topic, when divorced parents remarry, we're going to get a word from Reverend Mike in this episode of WTF, Word to Flesh Moments with Reverend Mike.
Let me make it biblically clear. God hates divorce. He says so in Malachi 2:16 of the Old Testament and reiterates his opinion in Matthew 19 of the New Testament. So don't make divorce an option unless there is no other. That being said, God is a God of love. He appreciates love. He honors love. So if you have found love again, you should do the honorable thing and remarry ASAP. The biblical direction not to remarry after divorce is for bishops and other such high church leaders. My advice is that you should remarry as quickly as possible, ensuring that the complications that can come with remarriage to a new person and new family are properly addressed and resolved. Pay attention to the concerns and needs of your children. Take the time to speak to them. Introduce them to your new partner. Sometimes God can use your children to help you make the best decision. For at times they can see and sense things about your new partner that you may not, especially if you're running into remarriage because you are lonely or burning with desire to resume yada activities. I'm Reverend Mike from Fellowship Tabernacle, and we just had a WTF moment.
Thank you so very much, Reverend Mike. And I'm going to welcome our special guest, Sonia Winter, and Reverend Trevor Edwards. You heard Reverend Mike a while ago, and I'm sure you heard the last part about that yada that he was talking about. We're focusing on parents today, and there are times when parents really do have to consider their children. So we're going to talk about the children for a minute from the parents' perspective. Reverend Trevor, do you have children, sir?
Young adults now. They're adults now.
Young adults now. At the time, were they minors?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes, they're minors.
They were minors at the time.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to ask you first, then, sir. When did you think it was okay to involve them in the new relationship that was developing?
When did I think it was okay to
involve them in the new relationship for your remarriage?
Okay. I guess this was some years after, many years after. I mean, my situation is peculiar, maybe more than some others. I had a period when I was a single father, so I had them for a couple years of their life, but my attention during that period was exclusively towards them, exclusively focused on them, and I didn't really create any space or allow anybody in my life, even though I had moved away and even though mentally I was growing away from the previous relationship. So they were also at a point away from me physically because they had migrated, so they were away from me. So that also created this space for me to be able to look at my life and decide whether there was any space, there was any future in the previous relationship, and whether I could make space to accommodate somebody. And it was during that latter period. But so they were, as I said, they were not living with me physically now at that point. But I shared with them that this was the direction I was taking, in that I'm considering remarriage. And this was like 9 years after the previous marriage ended. So I brought them into that decision, and they were quite okay with my decision at that point. I don't know if anything changed later, but they were quite okay and accepting of my decision then. Because I think they also recognized that the other relationship had ended with their mother, and therefore that freed up both of us to be able to go our separate ways.
Absolutely. Lady Sonia, what should a parent be sure about before bringing children into the conversation or into the discussion of getting remarried? What should a parent be sure about?
I think that the most important thing is to ensure that the new relationship is a stable one, where it's not you've passed through certain stages and it's sufficiently conflict resilient, it's emotionally safe, it's a respectful relationship, one that you see stable enough where you can build a future, so you should establish that certainly before you introduce your children, so it's not a casual relationship, I guess is what I want to say. I think also, to the extent you have a co-parenting relationship with the children's other parent, that's important that you've established what co-parenting looks like, and even especially if you have a steady routine that has been developed, so you've developed a new dispensation that also is stable, in terms of visitation, roles, what co-parenting looks like. So they have a rhythm, as it were, that they've established. They're not still in the chaos and the upheaval of the initial stages of the divorce or separation. Also, if I would say, if the new partner is ready for step parenting, you want to know that the new partner is on the same page as you before you introduce them to the children, to any children, and that they're also equipped, they're mature enough, and they're ready and able to perform, that role, and that everybody understands what it is that we're getting into, and then also make sure that everybody, you and your new partner, have really discussed expectations and roles, before what is this going to look like? What are we signing up for here, so that everybody's on the same page before we take this dive to bring the children. So you want to bring the children into a setting that is as stable as possible, in terms of roles and in terms of understandings of shared expectations.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Sonia. Earlier, Reverend Mike had made a comment, and I want to hear both of you share on that. We don't have too much time, but he made the comment, I believe, that children could help you to determine the suitability or the possibility for a successful going forward. Are children to be asked to bear that burden, or is it a burden for the child to have input in that way? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's a burden for children. I think it's a necessary input that they can make, because invariably they might be living with this person. So it depends on blendedness. This is going to be a new mother or a new father. And it's like a new opportunity or a possible sense of hope for the children, because they would have gone through the same experience of loss that we talk about the parents going through. It's a loss for them. And they will constantly be asking, when is mommy coming back home, or when is daddy coming back home, especially if they are younger children. And so if they see somebody, and that is why I fully agree with Sonia making the point that it should be somebody who is stable. It is not a rebound relationship. It is not somebody who is not just a visiting kind of relationship, but there's some stability. And that is why the parents have to be very careful that they don't introduce a new person unless it's stable. So the courtship period is one that has to be very carefully managed, so that the children don't get used to, oh, this is uncle, or this is another uncle, or this is another uncle, and get totally confused by seeing so many uncles that they don't know what is happening. And the blendedness is important, because if there are other children, they're going to live with them. So opportunities need to be created for them to interact together. And the whole matter of discipline comes in as well, in terms of how discipline is negotiated with children in a kind of a blended setting, because you have to look at that. Who establishes? Is it the parent of the child? Is it both parents? How do you establish that? And there are rules related to that also has to be discussed in the expectations that Sonia mentioned. So those are critical. As I say, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Parents, if they are cooperative parents, this experience can be smooth. If they are not cooperative parents, it can be a further nightmare for the kids. It's very important that this is understood. So if one parent wants the best and is working towards it, and the other still hasn't let go of where they're coming from, it can be a further hell for the kids.
Lady Sonia, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that and what he was saying. Go ahead for me.
Well, I think the children can be an important factor in the choice. Depending on their age, you might not want them to be part of the interview panel as to whether you choose the person or not, depending on the age, right? But I think that they're an important factor in choosing. So the fact that these children are an important part of your life, the individual that you're choosing has to meet certain standards or expectations before they're going to be chosen, so the children set up a standard, as it were, that the potential new partner would have to ought to satisfy, and that just, I think that means things that we've already talked about: maturity, readiness to, take on certain roles, readiness to negotiate discipline, because that's a very mature conversation to have, you know what I mean? Because it's a give and take, it's a negotiation, Are you confident enough to be willing to give a little to get a little in the negotiation, and so on? So I think that children definitely are an important factor in the choice. Whether or not they are active agents in the choice, I think is dependent on many other different things.
Absolutely. I love those responses that you gave. Thank you very much. We're going into our final break now, and you're listening to Family Time on Love 101 FM. And if you joined us on YouTube and on Facebook, we are happy to have you. Family Time is produced by Family Life Ministries. And of course, we want to let you know before we go for the break about 2 books from FLM that you're going to want on your shelves today. The first is Answers to Questions Parents Ask, and the second is Questions on Love, Sex, and Marriage. You can purchase these books from Brian's Bookstore, the Jamaica Baptist Union Bookstore, and the Source of Light Bookstore. Oh, but there's a third book, Before They Say I Do, the questionnaire and manual. This one is specifically for counselors, psychologists, pastors, and marriage officers. And all 3 books are available through Family Life Ministries as well. You can call them at 920-1034 or 926-8101. We're discussing parents getting remarried after divorce. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Remix the summer with Digicel. 100 lucky winners win $100,000 each, plus surprises all summer. Gift a friend a plan. They could win $25,000, and the time by Digicel is now 6:16 and a half.
You can see the face, but not the heart. Those who want to do you wrong. So many falls.
Bless up. This is Christopher Martin. Human trafficking is a crime. Let's unite to end human trafficking. Be wise, open your eyes. Spot them, stop them, and report them.
A message from the Ministry of National Security.
No shadow at the dark. No shadow at the dark.
This Emancipation Day, experience a night of powerful praise and purpose. CC Winans brings her More Than This tour to Jamaica with Chevelle Franklin, Kevin Downswell, Prince Saj, John Mark Wigan, hosted by IT Ellis and Nadine Blair. Gates open 2 p.m., showtime 5 p.m. Tickets at select outlets island-wide or online at spuropen.com. Follow at More Than This Jamaica on Instagram for updates. CC Winans, More Than This concert with a call. Friday, August 1, King's House East Lawns.
Welcome back. It is now 17 minutes past 6, and you're tuned to Love 101 FM. This is Family Time, brought to you by Family Life Ministries. And Family Life Ministries provides counseling for people with all kinds of challenges from all walks of life. Remember, you can tune into the program via the Love 101 FM Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Our topic today is when divorced parents remarry, and our special guests are Sonia Winter and Reverend Trevor Edwards. We're so glad to have them. We're going to jump straight into some comments from our listeners, and there is one from Saritha in Florida. And the question we had asked was, when is it okay for parents to get remarried? And Saritha said, after one spouse is dead, then the other is free to marry. That's what Saritha said. We have another comment, and this is from Claudia. And she says, I am currently divorced. I have 3 kids, the youngest 8. And I do struggle at times thinking that I will not get married again because I have all these kids. And then there are times when I'm like, gotta hurry up with the young man, please. But I do pray, and I pray asking God to help me that what was lacking in my past marriage will not resurface, because I do believe that I will remarry. My kids are very open for me to get married. Maybe it's the fact that I've been a single parent for so long. And that is from Claudia. Any thoughts on that?
The quick thought I have on that is I will join in prayer with Claudia that she finds someone who is caring of her first of all, and who will follow with love and appreciation for the children. the fact is, the statistics show that divorced men tend to remarry faster than divorced women with children, because it becomes an additional burden for a male to be able to adjust to a woman with children, where there could be possible distractions, and where if both of them are not mature enough to know how to balance and divide their time between themselves in creating a family and the children, it can be difficult. So I would say that it is not impossible for her. I think what needs to happen is continue to meet persons and look at, value the other persons, not so much assessing whether this person would be a good partner, but look, would this person be a good person with whom I could help me to love again, to trust again? Is there something I could add to this person's life, and is there something they could add to my life? Okay, so rather than focus on I need to find a partner, which sometimes can lead to other things and one being very distracted, look at, in the search, identify persons who you can add something to their life in a friendship, and they can add something to your life in a friendship. So friendship is a very important. And recognize that if you're going to be using time to pursue a relationship, how you are going to incorporate the children. So make time for them. The other thing I would say in relation to that, if this hasn't done yet in Claudia's situation, is make sure that the children are exposed to therapy as well. It's important that the children get some therapy, that they are prepared. And parents may seek counseling for themselves and sometimes forget that the children need to be counseled. And there are a lot of things that happen with the children in terms of how they deal with the loss of a parent from their lives. They may just resent somebody coming in their life if they are not fully adjusted, and if they are not helped to understand that the parents love them and don't accept blame for what may have happened in the relationship. So a lot depends on where those children are as well in Claudia's life. That's critical.
Great. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sonia, any other thoughts on that before we go to the next comment?
Yeah, I think I just want to second Rev's comments, about evaluating the relationship on its own merits, and the companionship that this person can bring, and that I too pray for her, to be able to enjoy a rewarding relationship in the future.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna ask Judy if they can show us the other comment that is there. It's from Sharon Earl Edwards. It says, in addition to prayer, fasting, and extensive Christian counseling, my healing journey was greatly enhanced by Fresh Start, founded by Reverend Edwards and FLM. Pi, that sounds like a nice little endorsement here. Rev, are you familiar with the name? You don't have to tell us anything, but are you familiar with that name, Claudia? No, not Claudia, sorry. Sharon Earl Edwards. That's who it was.
Yes, I am very familiar with that name.
Excellent, good. And that is a very encouraging comment that we have got there. Want to go back through some other things before we are almost out of time. Just want to ask you quickly, Sonia, expectations of what remarriage is. Maybe in about 2 or 3 minutes. What should we be expecting from remarriage if we are parents and we are looking to connect again? What should we expect?
One of the things is the fact that if you're blending families, that the integration process is not a simple or a quick one. Okay, it can take a while for both families to feel fully integrated. It's one that often requires patience before relationships sort of stabilize as much as they can. Because it can be very, very difficult for children. And I mean, that's the leading cause of tension and distress in second marriages. The effort to blend the families is almost like another challenge to conquer once you decide to get married. So And I think sometimes people underestimate what that journey can be like, you know. So expect that the integration of the family can be will require a lot of patience, compassion, and understanding, and it can be, and again, a very bumpy road, as well as a divorce itself, you know. I think I would also ask that people understand that, you know, it's important to adapt, you know, to change, you know, make sure that you have you've learned a lot. The thing about stressors, including divorce, is that it teaches you a lot about yourself. You know, it can teach you about your values, what you hold to be dear to yourself. You know, it can be, you know, if navigated in the best way, it can be a huge opportunity to learn about oneself and what's important, you know, and perhaps equip you for even better still for the next journey of a relationship, you know. Um, in terms of your choices, in terms of how you conduct yourself in that relationship, in terms of what you expect and what you allow in that relationship. So it's a wonderful place to be able to expect growth in this new relationship from yourself, and hopefully, you know, a growth of a different, more fulfilling relationship as well, you know. um, Also remember that integrating families also means you're going to have different conversations about finances as well. So expect to navigate that journey, which, and you know, it's even more complicated than the first time around, because you're probably coming to this new marriage with, you know, additional financial responsibilities, lots more, maybe more assets, more liabilities, different expenses, and you know, both people, and that's a bumpy road to navigate as well, you know, because of what we can bring um, to that new relationship. I think the last thing I would say is to know that conflict is normal, you know, that you have conflict doesn't mean that the relationship is doomed, but more that it's important to acquire important conflict management skills so that you can navigate the conflict that is sure to come. Any healthy relationship of two different people, two different identities, and so on, is going to be a breeding ground for conflict or differences, you know, differences in philosophy, opinion, difference in need, difference in communication styles, etc. And those differences do not mean that this relationship is doomed and I've made yet another bad decision. It means you have an opportunity to exercise conflict management skills, because you know there's this interesting statistic that has been found that relationships can grow more in the time that two people are navigating conflict than in times of harmony, you know. So conflict is a huge opportunity to grow.
Absolutely, that's so great. Reverend Trevor, I'm going to allow you the remaining time, so you have like about a minute and a half to just share with us. I was so encouraged by the comment from, I think it was Sharon, who said that she had been helped significantly by the Fresh Start group. What are some things that church and other bodies can help with in this kind of scenario? Just about a minute, sir.
It's a space that allows persons to process their journey, process their pain, learn from others who are going through the same journey, who are going through the same experience, hear how they cope with their exes and their children, and to know that this is a space where there's no judgment. Because people go through a lot of judgment from sometimes the church, sometimes other places where they are. They experience a lot of shame. They experience a lot of uncertainty. So this is a space where it is safe emotionally to be able to share anything about the journey, and also to learn from one another as to how to cope with loving again. And one of the things we looked at, for example, at our last meeting, is the whole issue of trusting again. Because when a relationship ends, trust is severely undermined and trust is severely broken. And it takes time to be able to trust someone again in a relationship. And you're trusting not only with you, but you're trusting with your children. That is why it is absolutely important that when you go into a relationship, make sure that you don't feel that you enter in this relationship because there's any desperation on your part. If there's desperation, you're not ready for remarriage. You're ready for remarriage when you don't feel that you must get married.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Must get married, you're not ready.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Sonia, it was so good to have you on this evening. Reverend Trevor, it was good to have you on. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'm going to have to say we are out of time. These programs run so fast, it's unbelievable. Thank you to our viewers and our listeners for being here with us. And thank you so much to our special guests. If you have questions of a personal nature or you're concerned about a friend or family member, call us at Family Life Ministries. Numbers are 920-1034, 926-8101, 5798-690, and 2798-678. The last two numbers I just gave you are on WhatsApp as well. Let me give you them again. 579-8690 and 279-8678. And you can contact us that way. Before we leave you, here's our verse for the evening. Romans chapter 12, verse 12. It says, "Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer." Join us again next week for another informative program. Thanks so much to our special guests. We had with us Sonia Winter and Reverend Trevor Edwards. Thanks also to our show producer, Kathy Gale. Thanks to Derval Graham for piloting us through this hour. And of course, you for being here with us. Have a great week. I'm Roland Gale. God bless you.